Welcome to another Kentucky Derby edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I'm your host, Brian Zipse, and as always, I have the great pleasure of being joined by my illustrious partner on the other coast, Matt Shifman. How are you, Matt?
I'm great, and I'm looking forward to talking Derby with you today again.
I say the other coast only because more Kentucky Derby big names have been coming out of California lately, and this year looks like no exception. You know who we have to start this week's show with, Matt. It was a show down in Arkansas, down in Hot Springs, Arkansas, for the Arkansas Derby, and the horse you've been talking up all spring, American Pharaoh.
Yep, we got to start with American Pharaoh. The Zayats are coming into this year's Kentucky Derby with a full hand, hoping to finally get their first Derby victory after so many close calls.
Zayat. Matt, I'm going to throw out the Zayats. I'm going to throw out El Kabir. I'm going to throw out Mr. Z. I'm not going to throw out the third horse, though. Some people are even comparing American Pharaoh to the great horse that I saw as a youth, Seattle Slew. Is that reasonable at this point, or is that unreasonable?
Well, I don't know about either of those. I think it certainly is premature. I mean, maybe the running styles are similar. They're running terrifically. Seattle Slew had more races in. Hey, Seattle Slew is a Triple Crown winner. We got a long way to go. As much as I like American Pharaoh, we got a long way to go to get in the category of Seattle Slew.
Agreed. But of course, Seattle Slew wasn't Seattle Slew until that first Saturday in May. And I believe, if my memory serves me, he had 7 wins going into the Derby. He didn't have a ton. It was probably either 6 or 7. So American Pharaoh is actually not too far behind. What did you see in the Arkansas Derby, Matt?
Well, we saw everything that we wanted to see and everything that we predicted that we wanted to see. I got to give you kudos again, my friend Brian Zipse, when you half jokingly, half seriously said 8-length victory. That's exactly what it was, an 8-length victory. He did everything right. He sat off of it a little bit, and his move was explosive, and he was down the stretch. He was eased. They were taking it easy down the stretch, and tremendous performance.
Tremendous performance, everything you'd want to see. But I worry. You know me, Matt. Sometimes I worry, and I worry. People are very impressed with the fact that he came off the pace in the Arkansas Derby, or he was off of one horse at least. And not to put down that horse, Lovey is his name. Cheap early speed, for lack of a better phrase. So. Yeah. Did that really teach him much?
No, I completely agree with you in that regard, Brian. At this point with some of these horses, it's still pure conjecture that they can, quote, come off the pace. Right. Passing a tired horse or two is not the kind of coming off the pace that we need to see in the Derby, in the 20-horse field. Keeping that in mind, American Pharaoh does have that kind of tactical acceleration that is important in the Derby. So if he can put all the pieces together with that, we got a good shot with that horse.
Yeah, he sure looks good, Matt. The one thing that's selling me as much as anything, it's not these 2 romping wins at Oaklawn Park against probably somewhat inferior competition. Seeing him in the mornings, the videos, I haven't seen him work out in person, but seeing him in the mornings is just, he puts on a show. It's so easy for him. His stride is big and smooth and powerful. He's starting to win me over. I still don't know if he offers value in the Kentucky Derby as a handicap, but he could be that something special we've been looking for.
Yeah, no question. And I agree about the value and completely.
We always got to look for a little value in the Kentucky Derby. And folks, I think we're going to talk a little bit about some betting strategies and maybe some historical context as far as how horses run best in the Kentucky Derby. That's going to come next week. We did have one other Kentucky Derby prep Saturday. It got totally overshadowed by the Arkansas Derby and American Pharaoh buzz. But I thought the horse, it's from the Jacksons, Gretchen and Roy Jackson of Barbaro fame. And I thought the horse looked really good. They're not going to push him ahead to the Kentucky Derby, it looks like, at this time. But Divining Rod was impressive, winning the Lexington.
Yeah, he absolutely was. He made a great move, strong performance down the stretch. And I don't know. I got a little mixed message after the race because in the post race interview, Divining Rod's trainer seemed excited about the prospect of at least considering going to the Derby. He knew that that was a really nice performance. And then the next day, the Jacksons came out and really strongly kind of put the kibosh on that. So I have a little bit of mixed message. And of course, he is a couple horses below the 20 mark at this point. So he'd need some help to get in, even if they change their mind.
Yeah, I think there's probably a little bit of a Barbaro overcarry effect where maybe they're extra careful not to push a horse. He's still young. He's only had 5 races. Obviously, he's by the top sire in America. Tappet, his mare, Precious Kitten, was a Grade One winner. So looks to have a good future. I'm with the Jacksons if they don't want to rush him and try to squeeze him in as one of the last horses to the Kentucky Derby. I would go as far as to say that was one of the best 10 Kentucky Derby preps of the year, though.
Yeah, so he deserves a shot, but I think that shot will come later on, maybe later on in the Triple Crown series, but certainly later on in the summer.
Agreed. Okay, Matt, let's shift gears. We've talked American Pharaoh. What races? What Kentucky Derby preps? They're over now. There are no more Kentucky Derby preps. All the horses that are going to run on the first Saturday in May, be part of that 20-horse field, have already prepped. What prep struck you the most? What are the ones that you said, "Wow, this horse could win the Derby"?
Yeah, I think this is a great point for us to go back and take a look at some of those prep races now that everything is over. I think I think we agree on a few of them with the UA Derby and Mubtaahij, and we need to see Dortmund, particularly in the Robert Lewis. And I think it's important to take a look at International Star, who swept the series in Louisiana. So why don't we take a look at some of those?
Okay, Matt, let's start with let's go overseas. Let's start with Mubtaahij. And Mubtaahij is a horse I've been kind of high on all year, but he took it to a whole new level in this performance in the $2 million. These were not allowance horses he was running against. Some were even older in there because of the Southern Hemisphere age difference. And he treated the rest of the field badly.
Yeah, without question. And Brian, my Kentucky Derby philosophy that you need a horse that has a running style just like Mubtaahij, coming off the pace, and in doing that, showing a nice acceleration. This horse has got all of the qualities that we need, and on top of it, we know this horse can go the distance of ground. We can't say that about any of the Americans because they haven't done it. But this horse has done it and done it more than once. And I'm using this horse in my trifectas. Like you said, we'll talk more about that. But this horse is going to be there. This horse is going to make some noise in the Derby.
Yeah, I agree, Matt. Obviously, there's an acclimation and there's a travel issue. He's traveled well before. He's acclimated before. This is going to be his biggest trip of his career, obviously, and he's actually supposed to be flying as we're taping right now. He's supposed to have left Dubai. South African trained, Irish bred. The distance for sure. His sire was a Dubai World Cup. His grandsire, I should say, Dubai Millennium, was one of the most impressive 1.25 mile dirt winners we've had, Dubai Millennium. And yeah, in his races, he's shown maneuverability. He's shown the ability to get a position that allows him to pounce at the top of the stretch time and time again. He's had 5 races on dirt. He is definitely one of my on a short list of the horses that I really like and will use on every ticket. Hopefully he comes over and shows us his best, because if he does, I think he stacks up against the very best Americans. So that's interesting to see. Dubai has never had a horse with a whole lot of success, 5th, 6th, 7th once they've come over. But I think this horse could be a whole new ball of wax for a Dubai a UAE Derby winner coming over. So I think we're both excited about him, and he should be 10-1 or higher, hey?
Yeah, I hope that 10-1 would be a good number to get. Stopping over in Chicago, are you planning on maybe going over having an Italian beef sandwich with him?
Yeah, I'm going to bring him a beef. I'm sure he's never had one in South Africa or England or Ireland or Dubai or any of his travels before. We'll see. It's tough. He's going to go through a couple-day quarantine, and then he'll be at Arlington for a little bit. So I'm going to try to visit. We'll see how it works out. Matt, if Mubtaahij is not my best bet in the Derby, well, we're all afraid of American Pharaoh, the favorite. But if Mubtaahij is not my top pick in the Derby, it could well be Baffert's other horse. I'm calling him his other horse after that Arkansas Derby win. That's how strong Baffert's hand is this year. But Dortmund is undefeated, and you know, most of these races we're going to look at are more recent, but we're going to go back to a race run, about 3 months before the Derby almost. It was back in February. It's the Robert B. Lewis, and I think he showed us both something that day.
Yeah, I think so. And Baffert is certainly holding the hand. Tremendous duo, and all the good things that we can say about American Pharaoh, we can say good things about Dortmund. And some of the same questions we have about American Pharaoh, I think we have about Dortmund also. So um, his performances have been tremendous. You want to talk a little more about the Lewis also?
Yeah, well, he's had two nice wins since then. Of course, his romping win most recently in the Santa Anita Derby. But I think in the Robert B. Lewis, it's important that we see this race, we watch this race, and realize that he looked like a dead duck at the eighth pole. It looked like Firing Line had stalked him perfectly and got the jump on him at the top of the stretch and was on his way to putting him away. Maybe he was going to win by a length or two. And Dortmund said, "Not so fast, my smaller friend. I'm coming right back at you, even if it's tight on the rail." And Dortmund did just that, and he denied a really, really good horse, Firing Line, the win that day. And horses don't usually win like that. Now, we mentioned American Pharaoh and the comparison that some have made to Seattle Slew. One
Right.
thing we found out about Seattle Slew in the Kentucky Derby is he could overcome. He had a very bad start in the Kentucky Derby, and as a speed horse, that's usually death. Seattle Slew was the type of horse that could come back, and he did in the Kentucky Derby. I think Dortmund has in some ways proven more than American Pharaoh in races like the Robert B. Lewis, where he really had to show some mettle to win the race.
Yeah, and I've heard some people continuing that kind of comparison, comparing Dortmund to Affirmed. So a little, not quite as flashy as Seattle Slew, more of a grinder, and so the comparison to Dortmund.
Interesting. It's fun to make those
Yep.
comparisons, and I might do a comparison for every horse in the Kentucky Derby article. Hint, hint. But Affirmed and Seattle Slew, those would be two good ones. And it's just nice to see people so excited about the field. We could argue that this is the strongest Kentucky Derby field maybe in the 21st century. So it's nice to have all these good horses. And even if these comparisons are a little bit overblown at this point, it's nice to have all these good horses that we can dream a little bit about, well, how good might they be.
Yeah, no question about it. This is a tremendous crop of 3-year-olds this year.
And you mentioned him already. I think we need to show that Louisiana Derby, because International Star is not going to be as flashy as American Pharaoh or even Dortmund. But all he does this year is win. He's coming off the pace. He's another horse who looks maneuverable, where he can move in and out, something you need in the Kentucky Derby, especially if you're going to be rallying. And like we're going to talk about more next week, more often than not, it's tough on the pace setters in the Kentucky Derby. So you want a horse that can rally.
Yeah, no question about it. And I love the jockey horse combination here. Miguel Mena has ridden that horse so confidently, has made all the right moves with the horse. I can see that confidence being a really important thing in the traffic, in the crowd of the Kentucky Derby. That versatility that Miguel Mena can get out of International Star. The Louisiana Derby and the Louisiana Trail has not produced a Derby winner recently, but the horses have fared well. They have gotten into the top 3. They've gotten into the trifecta. They've gotten into the superfecta on several different occasions in the last few years. So maybe International Star is not going to win it. Maybe he is, but I think he's a contender again when we talk about making money on the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, well, if Golden Soul and Commanding Curve can rally into the Kentucky Derby picture, this horse certainly has looked better in Louisiana prep racing than those two did. Different connections, different trainer. This is Mike Maker and the Ramseys. But you're right. I think he's one of the many good horses that are slightly forgotten. And we were talking maybe Mubtaahij will be 10-1 or higher. Maybe International Star. This is hard to believe, coming off 3 straight stakes wins, including the $1 million Louisiana Derby. He could be 15-1 or higher in the Kentucky Derby.
Oh yeah, he could maybe be 20-1, possibly also. So a great horse for people to be thinking about using in the exotics.
Good horse. sets up well for the Kentucky Derby, especially if the pace is a little bit fast. 1.25 mile tiring horses. I agree with you, Matt. Even if he's not your win horse, you get 20-1 that runs second or third. You're pretty happy in those exotics.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so those are three horses that caught both of our eyes in the prep series. We're not forgetting about American Pharaoh. We started with that big Arkansas Derby winner, but we liked what we saw from Dortmund in the Robert B. Lewis, international star in the Louisiana Derby, and Mubtaahij in the UAE Derby. Any parting shots for us on this week's Kentucky Derby edition, Matt?
Well, only that I'm going to continue to look at all the different angles, look at the replays, think about the possibilities for the first Saturday in May. I think there'll be plenty of more interesting angles and approaches and ways to think about the Kentucky Derby on Horse Racing Nation. We got some interesting articles up there already about starting to put your tickets together and handicap the Kentucky Derby.
Good plug, Matt. Good plug. And thank you as always for joining me. Yeah, it's going to be a great Derby. We can't wait to get down there to Churchill Downs to Louisville to be part of the craziness at this year's Derby. Thank you everyone for watching once again. We've been brought to you by Horse Racing Nation and Derby Wars. And we're going to be back same time, same channel next week to bring you more Kentucky Derby editions of HorseCenter.